Hello CS300 and welcome to my video on Program 2, the Jungle Park program. Basically, I'm going to be going over the processing library and kind of explaining what is going on in the background, because you'll notice with this program as you go along further with it that there's so much going on in the background that it kind of makes it confusing as a programmer, and it's very different from anything else that we've done. A couple things before you even start your program. You can see that I have a couple red issues here, and that's because it doesn't have these classes yet. In order to get those classes, then we need to get a Jungle Park jar file, and that will be in your write-up. I have it saved already, so I'll just pull that up. And then, all you want to do then is you could slide it over into the project that you're currently working in, and then just press OK, and that should be fine. Otherwise, you could right click, you can copy and paste it in. I'm sure there's a ton of other ways you can do it, but this is just the easiest way. And then you're not quite done, because you also have to configure the build path. In order to do that, you just right click on your jar file, and then you go down to build path and then say add to build path, and it will automatically do that, and it will put it in your reference libraries. And now you can see that all of this red stuff went away, and now we have these classes because that is what the processing library provides us with. We now have our papplet class, and basically you can think of that as the entire, app itself as we run it. I don't know, it's a little confusing to explain without just showing you, so I'm going to continue with the images. And again, you can just, you need to create a folder first, and make sure you name it exactly images, otherwise this won't work. And then you can open up the two images that you got from the write-up, and you can again just slide them over here and copy files, or you can of course copy and then paste. And now you can see we have those two images in here. You do not have to configure the build path or create the build path this time. It should be fine, just those two in there. If you don't see them right away, then you can try right clicking and then doing refresh, and then they might pop up. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is just type in this line of code, utility.start application. Utility.start application. So basically what this is doing is, it's the only line of code that's really going to be in your main, I believe, and what start application does is it repeatedly checks for updates within your program. So what I mean by program, and what I meant by app earlier, is just this. So you'll see this gray thing pop up. This is what you're working with the entire time, and you're going to have different images and different ways to interact with it as the user as we keep adding things. And so what utility.start application is doing is it's checking if the user is changing things about the app, or if I press down on my keyboard, this actually will know that, and then will do something in response to a key pressed event, or a mouse down event, which you'll see those two methods a little bit later. But yeah, that's what's kind of going on with that. It's just repeatedly checking for updates on your actual application. Okay, and then so setup is another thing that start application will kind of check, or it'll call setup right off the bat, and it'll only call it one time. So we're first gonna actually initialize our processing object to what is read in here in the parameters. So it's kind of like a constructor at this point. Everything that we want to be done right off the bat we put in setup. And we're also going to set the background color using the background method. It's pretty easy. And you can change this to whatever you want. We're going to be doing a mint green color, which you can see here. And I think it kind of has to be mint green, but if you wanted to change it to like more of a pink color, then you can just kind of play around with it a little bit. But I'm going to go back because I like the mint green, and that's what we're supposed to be using anyway. And then, so what you first have to do to get your background image in the setup method is actually load in that image. And so you're going to use your processing object, which is the entire application, and say, let's load in an image. And we have it in our images folder, and then it's called background. And there we go. That loaded in the image. Oh, background image is our global variable. Yep, there it is. Okay. And this is a p-image object. Essentially, that just allows us to load in and then draw the images on our application. So now I'm going to actually draw it because technically it hasn't been drawn, and use the image method from processing, background image. An image is just going to be drawing it, and then so this right here is asking for the width that we want to do, and we want to do processing the entire object's width divided by 2, and processing dot height divided by 2, because that actually is going to be put in the center. So this over here is obviously the width and then the height, and so to divide it by 2 put us right here, so the image is now centered. And that's how your tiger objects will work too later on, so it's important to note. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to creating our tiger objects, and just so you know, the tiger class has an entire Java doc here, basically. And so it has all the methods, and you really want to know these because you will be using every single one of them. I would definitely take the time to read through them before you continue. But yeah, it's a really well-written summary of everything. And now we're going to be creating our tiger images and drawing them using the image that we loaded in here for our tiger. So you actually want to start out and just do a for loop. And we have our tigers array, and this is going to be keeping track of the tigers that we create. And you also only want to have up to 8 according to the write-up, and so we're going to make our tiger array a size of 8. Oops, there you go. So now I can hold up to 8 tigers, and for the entire length of the array, you want to initialize them to all null. So tigers, each tiger object is going to be set to null. And this is all done in setup because this is how we want it to initially be. Again, think of it like a constructor. So now we're just going to draw our first tiger object. So you can get the first one and create a new tiger. And if we look back at the tiger class, then you can see that there's 2 different options for our constructors. Either we can just create a new tiger object, or we can create a new tiger object with a specified X and Y position. So if we just create a new tiger, then you want to read in our global processing object. And now we have a new tiger. And in order to draw it, you just have to do tigers 0.draw. That's literally it. You just use your draw method. And then we have our tiger. Here it is, tiger 1. It's pretty cute. But yeah, rest of our tiger objects are actually still null though, and so if I try to do another for loop, I'll just copy this, and then I did tigers I equals new, oops, no. So if I leave it at null, sorry, kind of forgot what I was doing, and then I just draw them all, then I'm gonna get a null pointer exception right here, a null pointer exception. And this is because I'm going through all the tiger objects, which are specifically null here, which means they do not have a defined value, and I'm trying to use a method on them, that I'm trying to what's called dereference these null variables, these null tiger objects, and that creates a huge issue because these are null, and so we don't want to mess with any undefined objects. If you recall in memory, this actually kind of looks like this. So I have my string array called R, and then I set them all to null, and you can see over here R is just on the, so this is the stack frame, and then this is pointing to heap memory. And so if we're trying to dereference these uninitialized variables, then this could cause a lot of issues, and so we're not allowed to use any methods on them. We would have to initialize them first. So that's pretty important to know. So remember too that setup is only called one time, but we will have many other methods that are called more than that. For example, update is a method that will be continuously checked on by the utility.start application call here. It's basically just gonna check for updates, like I was saying, on your processing object. So eventually we'll have a, oh, my bad. Eventually we will have a, I'm just gonna close these quick. So eventually we'll have a method that if you press your mouse down, then certain actions will happen. And then if you press a key, then something will happen if you have this application open. And that is decided upon by, if you press a key, then it's key pressed. If you press down your mouse, then it's literally, the method is called mouse down. And the start application is going to be checking continuously if a key was pressed or a mouse was pressed down. It's kind of stuff like that. And then we will be using that to have different actions occur later on. That's pretty much all I had to talk about for this. It should be pretty easy getting set up now. If you have any troubles with it, of course, you're welcome to come in and talk to any one of us. Good luck with the rest of your program.